This is Metzi from Yellow Brick Card Club. You can find us at Yellow Brick Card Club on Instagram. There we have links to our free Discord, our video streams, and whatever else we got going on at the moment. You can find Pierce at Pierce Breaks on Instagram and YouTube, and at reddit.com/r/Pierce Breaks. Both of us run lively, free Discords. Come check us out and enjoy the show.
Card Show. I'm John, aka Waxmoronic, and I am very happy to have with me one of my very favorite hobby people. You may have heard of him. He is Tjay The Yadi Guy. Tjay, what is up, man? It's so good to have you.
Hey, what's going on, Wax? Had to dust off the microphone to get over here with you today. Appreciate the intro. I guess I'm forever the Yadi Guy. That's kind of my legacy in this little corner of the world. But yeah, man, it's good to be on here, chat with you a little bit, dust off the microphone, clear some rocks out of the voice, and talk about some baseball cards for a few minutes. I'm excited.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, so why don't you tell us a little bit about why you're Tjay The Yadi Guy? And I don't know, maybe you don't want to be Tjay The Yadi Guy anymore, but give us a little bit about your background and what you're into.
Yeah, I mean, that's forever me, and I'm totally comfortable with that. That's whatever I do in this hobby, it always just kind of comes back to Yadier Molina. So, my little backstory, like most people, jumped back in the hobby in 2020, right around COVID time. Used to collect a lot when I was a kid, a lot like, many other people, just grabbing, junk wax and things like that. I was mostly basketball with a little bit of baseball back in the early mid 90s. And then, did high school and college and all that and really just stopped. And then around COVID time, for some reason, it just kind of piqued my interest again, started grabbing packs and eventually settled on, St. Louis Cardinals, always been my favorite team. So I would collect Cardinal stuff. And then I ended up with just a huge box of all these random Cardinals. And, if you're a baseball fan or a hobby fan, you know that people change teams real often, man. So I kind of settled on my one guy, lifetime Cardinal. And just started picking up every Yadier Molina card that I could get my hands on. Found my way to Reddit, which is where the majority of us all kind of met each other. That was the inception point. And anytime a Yadi card would jump up on Reddit, for sale, for trade, or even just for show off, I'd end up getting tagged. And, as is the custom with most nicknames that are organic, I was kind of dubbed, hey, it's that Yadi guy. Where's that guy that collects all the Yadi stuff? And I just kind of took it and ran with it. I fully embraced it and have amassed a pretty, in my opinion, pretty respectable Yadier Molina collection over here. It wasn't until I got on Instagram I realized that, man, I'm way far behind a lot of these other guys. But Instagram will really humble you real fast when it comes to your PC. But, I put my Yadi collection up against the vast majority of others. I'm sitting on some stuff over here that you don't see every day, and I'm pretty proud of it. So yeah, that's kind of me, and that's what I do. And, some of you guys might know me from the E16 Baseball Card Podcast. Shout out to Bobby Baseball. We had a real good couple-year run over there. Shout out to my man, Philly. We also did a Tool Time podcast focused on prospects. So I've kind of done every little thing there is to do in this hobby, from running breaks, participating in breaks, hosting podcasts, guesting on podcasts, selling on eBay, buying, ripping hobby boxes, ripping retail. Full degenerate status is kind of my MO. So yeah, that's me, and that's what I do.
I don't know, man. Yeah, and this is kind of like we're trying to take that legacy of the old podcast and kind of, at least that's what I think of when I do this, is what you guys were up to, and you guys had great chemistry. And so try to take that, spread it around to a few more people so we can get that like prospect coverage. Or like we had a guy on recently who was just super into like analysis. So he was doing a lot of analysis on the new cards and prices and like what's the best format to buy if you want certain things, not just autos, and like really break it down. So we got people that, you know, are excited about every inch of the hobby to come in and talk about it. So, man, but yeah, it's great to have you back on. Is there like one Yachty card that like sparked your decision to collect heavily into Yachty, or was it just kind of like you got some and then you just kind of snowballed into the bigger stuff? How did that work?
You know, oddly enough, you know, when you first get in and there's so many SKUs and product lines and just so much stuff going on, you know, it took me, I'd say, a good solid year to kind of figure out what's what's good for long-term value for hold, and what's, you know, just kind of, you know, fly by night type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a 2020 Panini Prism set. I found this breaker on eBay. He was breaking Panini Prism like every day, so I was buying the Cardinals every day, and I ended up with, you know, half of a rainbow of the you know, the Yachty card from that set. Which, if you know Panini Prism, that's like a 3,000 card rainbow because there's 7 million parallels for
Yeah.
everything. Um, so I started putting that together, and I really like the image. It's, you know, Yachty in the Carolina Blues. They call them the Victory Sunday Blues, you know, for the Cardinals. Full catcher gear, and it really just a dope image. I really like that card. And then I started finding other ones, and then it kind of got to a point where, you know, I just wanted everything with his face on it. At some point, you know, I started offloading some stuff, but, you know, I was in excess of like 1,500 individually unique Yadier Molina cards, maybe even closer to like 1,700. I forget the count. Um, but it was that 2020 Panini Prism set that really, really just kind of got me. Man, I got to have all of these. You know what I mean? There's this cool
Yeah.
blue one, a green. They're serial numbered. That really, really hit me. And then the 2020 tops image where he's it's a nice close up. You see the neck tats. He's got the bat thrown over his shoulder. That's
Oh yeah.
probably my favorite, you know, modern day card. And then as I progressed, I started getting into the older stuff. And then I really started getting into, you know, the image variations, short prints, super short prints, and stuff like that. But you can't really show me a Yachty card that I don't like, bro. At this point, they're all gold to me.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I love that you're open to unlicensed stuff and like you started that way. That's really cool. Because you know, there's a lot of opinions about unlicensed cards, especially in right now in like the basketball world. Like, people are not into it. Um, but yeah, what was it like? I started in like 2022, like late 2022. I found the podcast and the Discord and everything, and came in and started talking to you guys. But I didn't get in during COVID, but I know that was like a crazy time for cards. Was there like, what was that like being, you know, in the middle of it, locked down, and all of this card stuff kind of going on out in the world, but not really out in the world, you know, like kind of everybody's in their homes doing all this trading and collecting and buying, and just like the market's going wild. Was there anything about that time that just really stuck with you, or that you feel strongly about, that influenced you in the way you do your business?
Yeah, man, it was a crazy time. I mean, you can, to a lesser extent now, I mean, you walk in Walmart, Target, Best Buy, you know, wherever you pick up retail. And, you know, these days, I feel like you got a 50-50 shot that there'll be something sitting on the shelf. I go to Barnes and Noble a lot, and I can grab a blaster box or a hanger, you know, in most cases. 2020, shelves were wiped, man. There was just nothing. You know, you had scalpers going in, they'd wipe a shelf, throw it back on, you know, OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace or something like that at a 30-40% markup. So even just finding a box was kind of a rare occasion. You know what I'm saying? Just the opportunity to even be able to buy cards was a
Mm-hmm.
rare occasion. So it kind of skewed my view. You know, I'd get to the point where it was like a feast or famine type of situation. You walk in Walmart, all of a sudden you caught a restock, and you'd end up buying way more than you probably should, just because you found something. Like the thrill of the hunt was really more than anything else. So, you know, I'd find myself again full degenerate mode, you know, stopping 4, 5, 6 Walmarts. You just run in. I'm to the point where I live out here in Tucson. I could tell you where the card section is at every major retailer in this whole damn city, man. It's a problem. You know, you just run in, you make a beeline for the card section. Damn, they don't have anything. You're just right back out the door. You know, security guards are looking at you like, hey, what? This guy was in here for 48 seconds. What the heck is he doing? Um, And then, to that point, it really inflated everything across the board. So, box prices were inflated on secondary market, which kind of in turn made card prices inflated, and it made
Mhm.
everything just less accessible, more expensive. And, they print a lot more of this stuff now than they did then. So everything was just really, really hard to come by, and henceforth more and more expensive. So it made it really tough, and it kind of shaped the way I did stuff. So I've always been, I'm willing to overpay for something. I'm willing to go further to find it, just because it was so damn hard to get your hands on anything, man. That's really gotten a lot better lately. People talk about we don't like these crazy print runs, et cetera, et cetera. Man, there was a time when you couldn't buy cards. So it's nice to
Mhm.
just have product availability at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like it might not be cheaper than it was before, but at least you can find something, online, or like if you want to break something now, like you want to rip a box, you can probably find an LCS that has stuff for you. Or like it's a little weirder for me because all the retail places around me, there's never anything. Actually, I just started seeing stuff regularly on the shelves with 2025 series ones. So now like GameStop has them. My Target even has something. My Target has nothing but like Lorcana and like Skibbity toilet stickers. Like that's all it is, and like weird little blind box figurines that maybe we should break those, but they're always available. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah, I understand. You go in and you see like, oh, they have 8 hangers. How many should I get? Like,
yeah. It's a
should I
problem.
grab them all? When's the next time I'm going to see these? So yeah, I totally get it. But yeah, it was a very very nervous time, and like I don't know. There's a lot of to me. It seems like there's a lot of anxiety about it when you're looking for cards. I don't know if people kind of feel the same way, but like you go in and you either have nothing and you feel bad about it, or they have too much and you don't know how much to get, or like it's like the perfect opportunity is you go in and there's one left on the shelf, and then you don't have to worry about it. Like, okay, this is it. We'll get this one, and we'll take it home and see what we get. But yeah, I feel that, man. It's funny because it's funny you were talking about Panini. I've been looking for some Cal Raleigh stuff, and like I don't have a really nice like patch auto, and I think that's going to be a thing with the football and basketball guys that come over, especially the football guys when they get the license. They're going to stop buying top stuff, and they're all about the RPAs.
Hmm.
And I had never really thought about that, and so I've been looking for some Cal Raleigh stuff, and most of the big patches are either in the top end, top stuff, or you can find some better stuff in like Leaf and Panini. And the great thing about collecting a catcher is a lot of the times the photos they have a ton of gear on, and you wouldn't be able to see many logos anyway.
Yep.
So it's less distracting, and so like it kind of broadens your horizon for what's available and what you can you know stomach, I guess. I don't know. A
Yeah,
lot of people
no,
have.
if you're a player collector and you're not in it for the flip, you're not in it for the long term. I hate when people throw the word invest around in this hobby. But if you're a player collector, there's nothing better than a Panini patch, bro. And to take it a step further, you mentioned Leaf Trinity patches are undefeated as far as the patch game in this hobby,
Wow.
man. I mean, they're the nastiest. I mean, you get a Topps patch with, oh, it's a 3-color patch. You pull a Leaf patch, it'll be a 78 color patch. I mean, they got the whole damn logo in there.
The whole
Leaf,
bird. Yep.
oh yeah, Leaf Trinity patches are undefeated. So I've got a few of those in the PC. Panini Immaculate really, really does some nice stuff with patches. There's some mean stuff in there, and for a guy such as myself, where it's just all about the Yachty, and I don't care about much else that's going on in the card. Um, the patch game is undefeated. Now, with that said, the caveat, I'm not paying Topps Dynasty prices for a Panini patch. I know what I'm doing out here. Eventually at some point in time, I got 2 daughters, so all this stuff's got to go somewhere, and it's probably not going to them. So it's all going to get resold, maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, God willing. But um, I'm still cognizant of the fact that long-term value, sustainability, etc. But to have something that holds something, Panini patch and Leaf patches are hands down wash away pretty much anything Topps will ever do, with the exception of Dynasty, which is a crazy price tag for a single card.
Yeah, for sure. And it's all about the license. That's what people want. But it's to our advantage when you get into something like I just bought some optic rookies, some Julios, and some different parallels, and like some of those smaller, lower numbered cards are are very affordable and they look awesome. And so like, I'm all about the colors. I'm all about the feeling it evokes when you like see the card. And it sounds like you kind of connect with that too, where you're like, oh, you see Yadi and you like the picture, you like the emotion it evokes, maybe the memories you have of him or like Cardinals or anything like that. And like, that's the kind of stuff I like to amass. So yeah, it's cool when you can find, or like you PC a guy who's, never going to cost very much money. Like that's awesome. Like you can, there's things are available. People are selling them. It's not too much money. It's like a perfect storm. So yeah. I remember kind of last time you were really around and chatting with us, you were in the process of getting most or all of your nice stuff graded. So like you were saying, like it'd be easier to, if you need to, or if someone else needs to unload that stuff if it's graded. And I thought the foresight you had was really interesting. And I kind of went through the process of moving, my parents' stuff when they passed on recently, and just, what was in order and what wasn't in order, especially for me as an only child, like made a huge difference. And so you doing that and having the foresight as a collector, and as me as a collector, I'm very much like, now, like, what can I get now? I grab a bunch of stuff, put it in boxes, and then, it, quote unquote, it's going to get sorted. But, like for me, it's still about the accumulation. And so I just took a bunch of that stuff out to display. Actually, I got my office in order and I put it out and I was like, Jesus Christ, like I've been buying a lot of stuff and it really hits you. But what are you going to do with that if no one else knows what to do with it? So I really liked hearing you taking that on really seriously. Did you end up reducing a lot of stuff, or did you get most of it graded, or how did that work out? Are you still working on it?
So I have, I had that PSA membership for a year. We did a lot of bulk subs in the Discord. I know you know all about that. I'm pretty sure you were in on a few of them. At this point, I've successfully graded pretty much everything that really means something, or, quote unquote, is worth grading. Now, with the caveat, grade what you want, bro. If you got a 2017 base card that doesn't really, it's worth $3 and you want that on a slab it up. I've always been a proponent of, grade what you like, just like buy what you like. But in terms of, so I got all my image variations graded. I got all my, 2004 stuff graded, all the higher end autos and things like that, all graded. So, the wife knows, if I walk out here tomorrow and lightning hits me, those stuff in those PSA slabs, that's the stuff that probably take a little bit more time and make sure you get something with, because she, just like everybody else in here's wife, probably sick of hearing about it, looking at it, doesn't know anything about it, doesn't care to, so if she comes in here and that, that 2016 SSP that I got that I paid $450 for looks like just every other base card. There's nothing, there's no autograph on it. There's no serial number on it. There's nothing that would denote that it's worth anything of any significant value. But the fact that it's sitting in that slab would indicate to her that, hey, this might be something here. So, yeah, I was able to successfully get everything that, in my opinion, is worth grading over here, graded. So, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with that. Now I've got just a slab box, and it's way out of control. But, like I was telling you guys before we started recording, I got a 1-year-old daughter now. And, as she's begun her takeover of the house, my hobby activity is really kind of slowed to a crawl. I've been buying retail every once in a while. Like I said, I bought a couple blasters of archives yesterday. I didn't pull anything good before you ask. So yeah, I've just got stacks and stacks, man, and I really need to get selling. As the season's starting to heat up, it's prime time to start getting rid of some stuff. And I'd really like to get consolidated down to just my Yachty stuff at this point in time. Sit a bunch of stuff to ComC, trying to unload some stuff there. But as you're aware, man, the selling process, it's tedious, man. Photos, eBay listings, et cetera, et cetera. It's very, very time consuming. So I really need to get on that. But yeah, man, I got a ton of crap over here. If you want to come and sort through it, and I need a consignment service or something, bro. This is out of control.
For sure. And I remember there was one time in the Discord, you gave a little just like video tour with your phone of your collection stuff and the drawers you were pulling out and the boxes you were opening with just like banger after banger after banger, just like heat coming out of those boxes. And it was just like, Jesus Christ, this is legit. And so I just think about that and like, all of that part of your collection that you wanted to, what you were keeping, what you're holding on to, grading, and what you kind of had to get rid of. Did you end up getting rid of a lot of stuff, or were you already kind of at the point where you kind of settled on what you were keeping and wanted to grade and pass on?
I unload. So as far as my PC, I trimmed the PC. I'd say I'm about 40% done with that proposition. I've still got a lot of low end stuff that I just bought, $5, $8 cards, stuff like that, that I really don't need. It's not significantly, I'm not attached to it. You know what I mean? Anything
Mm-hmm.
beyond just having it. I'm a collector, man. I've always been a collector. Before I got into, baseball cards, it was sneakers. Before I did that, it was hats. So I've got a whole office here just full of crap. So no, I haven't really gotten around to that yet, man. And I would bet, when I gave you that tour, the vast majority of that stuff is still here. I really just need to take the time and start unloading. But yeah, man, I'm still pretty stocked up over here. It's a little bit of a problem. I think I only have maybe 30, 40 cards listed on eBay presently. And, in the last 90 days, I think I've sold like $90 worth of stuff. I just sold a $10 Yachty card. Last night I got an offer. I was like, wow, I forgot I even had this listed for sale. Um, so yeah, I really need to get around to that. But again, like I said, it's just so tedious and time consuming. I just really don't have the wherewithal to get into that right now. Even to sit down with you guys right now for 45 minutes, I'm surprised I haven't got attacked by one of my pets or the baby, or got a phone call from work or something like that. So I really need to get into that. But yeah, man, it's a problem over here. It's definitely a problem.
Yeah, I totally feel you. My kid is a 5.5, and he is just getting to the point where like I don't have to watch him like a hawk, and I don't think he's gonna like smash anything. So like I
Yeah.
mostly spend a lot of time, and I love spending time with him too. But he is getting to the point where he's old enough that like we can go out and get some cards together, and he'll open them. Um, and he's super into the stars of MLB stuff that you see in like every retail pack. Like that's
Oh,
that's
heck
his
yeah.
jam. And so like we got a few blasters a couple weeks ago, and he was opening stuff, and he was like, "Oh, you can have this. This isn't stars. You can have this one." So he's giving me this, the stuff he didn't want, and I'm kind of putting it aside. And he's like, "Oh, you can have this one too." And it was an Otani home field advantage. And he's like, "Oh, you can have this. You can have this one. It's not a stars." And I was like, "All right, cool. I'll put this in a one touch for you." But yeah, it's been fun. But yeah, it's like, I it's really easy to spend a lot of time on eBay looking for stuff, and like every time someone posts something, you're like, "Oh, that's cool. Maybe they have that in my player," or like, just follow a whole bunch of auctions, or like it's always happening like constantly. And then,
eBay never
you know,
closes, bro. eBay never
no,
closes.
no, and there's always, we keep saying it on the pod, there's always more cards. Like it's not like, 24 might be over, but like that's just the beginning. Like and it's not going to stop.
Yeah.
So like when are you going to stop yourself? It's really hard. And then you just end up with eBay, they just show up at your door. Like you don't have to do anything. So
Yeah.
you just bring it downstairs, put it in a box, and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna put that where it goes later." But when is later? And like, do you have the time? I've started doing it. Like I went really hard in 24, getting some of those great rookies and stuff, and getting a little bit more Julio Rodriguez, because his prices have gone way down. And there's a lot of stuff when I started in 2022 where he was like, the peak of his power in the hobby.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm never going to own that card. It's way too expensive. And now it's like less than half price. And I'm like, okay, well, let's jump on the bandwagon before he blows up again. But
Good
so
time to
now
buy
it's
Julio.
2025. Yeah. And so 2025 is here, and I'm like slowing down a bit. And I was like, okay, now it's time to get this stuff out of the boxes and put them up and just like really see what I need to do. And it's harrowing, man. Like I don't even know. I like to have a plan before I go in, but it's hard to plan when you have like, a half dozen 2-row boxes full of stuff that you need to put somewhere. So yeah, I really feel you. So you said you're kind of taking an extended break. Um and it was that, probably mostly to do with family. But are there other things you've been thinking about while you've been on a break, or things that you've kind of like realized or come to a decision about while you've kind of paused going really, really hard into the hobby?
Yeah, I just did too much, man. And like you were talking about, it just never stops. aside from eBay, you got a new release dropping damn near every month. New sets, new parallels, new rookie chases. I found myself, I've pretty much got every Yachty card that I want or could see myself having that costs less than $500. Obviously, if I were more disciplined, I could save up money and grab, some $500,000 cards, things like that. I never really found it justifiable to spend five, six, seven, $800 on a card. Most of the stuff I have is, two, $300 or less. I've only spent, more than 400 on a card. I could count that the times I've done that on one hand. You know what I mean? And it was for
Mm-hmm.
something that I've been hunting for a really long time. So, I could jump on eBay right now, search up Yadier Molina, and I'm not going to really see anything that I don't already have or that's outside of my price range. So I've kind of hit a wall with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because I'm such a degenerate and I went so crazy for, pretty much 4 nonstop calendar years, just grabbing, 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 grabbing.
Mm-hmm.
I could tell you, about how much something should cost, whether or not I've had it or wanted it in the past, and a lot of stuff I've just written off as, yeah, man, that's never going to happen. That
Mm-hmm.
2004 red X Fractor that's anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000. That's just not going to happen, bro. It's just it's not in the books for me. I can't do it. I'd rather, pay a month of my mortgage. You know what I'm saying? It's just not, it's
Yeah.
not feasible. Um, so I started doing other stuff. I dipped into Jordan Walker for a little while. I went real heavy on Dylan Carlson, which is probably one of my biggest hobby mistakes. Um, and as a lot of people probably know, went real heavy into Junior Caminero. I'm still sitting on some crazy Caminero stuff, and I'm thinking this year is going to be the year. But you just start kind of looking for, what else am I going to buy? What else am I going to buy? You start buying stuff just for the sake of buying stuff, and it's almost like the hobby kind of became a job at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talked about Instagram. I see somebody post something crazy on Instagram. Next thing you know, I'm over here looking for it or something comparable. I'm trying to flex on guys. I'm the Yachty guy. I got this reputation to maintain or whatever else you want to call it. It kind of became like work at a certain point. So, uh, really just kind of pump the brakes a little bit, stop buying hobby boxes, picking up occasional retail, trying to chill on eBay a little bit. You almost have to kind of wash social media because it's just nonstop temptation and people waving things in your face and you feel like you got to keep up with the Joneses or whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be. So just really kind of pumping the brakes a little bit, but it got to the point where, yeah, it just kind of turned into a job, man. And I think I kind of lost sight of the reason why we should be doing this, and I was just doing it just to do it. So taking a step back and not buying stuff crazy religiously has been kind of cool because I got a lot more money in my bank account than I ever did before, let me tell you. And B, a little bit more free time and time to focus on, like you said, the family and things like that. But it really just kind of helped to refocus, why am I actually doing this? And then I'm sitting here in the office right now, I'm looking at some displays and some boxes, and it's like, yeah, man, I made a lot of really poorly advised decisions over the last 5 years, bought a lot of stuff I probably didn't need to. I got boxes of sorted and unsorted base cards. What the hell am I going to do with all this stuff? So it's just kind of stay in your lane, man. And that would be my advice to somebody who's, either deep in it or just getting in it. Pick something that means something to you and try to stick in that lane, because outside of a lot of this yachty stuff, I don't know why I have the rest of this. You know what I mean? And it's
Mm-hmm.
really not incredibly valuable to the point where I don't want to take time setting up eBay listings to sell $3 cards and pay eBay fees on it and go to the post office and do all this other stuff. So, I've just kind of put myself in a situation where I have more than I need and definitely more than I want. So, just kind of trying to refocus my focus, if that makes sense.
Sure, for sure, yeah, and I think more or less, most of us have a problem, kind of in the same range, whether it's the magnitude you and I might have it or not. But I think that's a pretty common sentiment. But it is very easy to to fall in that trap and see what everybody's getting and be like, oh, I need to get that one that fits into what I'm doing, and then just gets out of hand where you just keep finding other stuff that you have to add. and then you're just kind of reflexively doing it and be like, oh, now I'm on my, I bought 20 cards this week. Like what am I doing? So it's really easy to do. And I mean, they call it influencing for a reason, right? Like there people are showing you this stuff. A lot of people like to buy stuff and show it off. A lot of people like to, they show off their stuff, and then you feel like you said, keeping up with the Joneses is like, oh, like that guy has this thing, but a lot of that stuff is coming out as like rare Otani autos and stuff. So like if you're following the right accounts, you can be like, that's really cool, and I'm probably never going to have anything like it, and that's okay, because I don't want to spend mid 4 figures on a card. So I'm probably never happen. Or like it's fun, it's great to find a focus. Like I've decided this year to buy as much as I can when I want to buy something from community members, like people I know on Instagram or in Discord, just as a challenge of like, how much cool stuff can I pick up that, I can spend there and send to someone that I maybe might talk to on a regular basis, instead of just, on eBay, a card I found. And there's no, like, I don't have a personal relationship with that. Right.
Right.
And that's part of what I like to do with my collection too, is every time I look at a card, I'm like, oh, I got this from, I got this because I hit really big in some break and I sold that card, and then I ended up buying this. Like I have a history for all this stuff. It's not just like the stuff that I get that's like either, not even just a bad idea, but just like, oh yeah, I bought that. And it's like, that doesn't really make me feel any sort of way. It's just like just another card in the box. So yeah, it's nice to have a player PC, but like you said, even that can get out of hand where you're just like picking up whatever for that player because that's your thing. Right. So I think the accumulation fallacy is really, really prevalent. And I was fortunate enough when I was starting to have a community of people to talk to who've been doing it for a while. And they had all kinds of advice that I still think about. Like, there's guys that they collect every different way. They're like, I'm going to only collect 17 out of 76 cards, or I'm only going to collect like this guy who's from my hometown, or, give yourself a little project with some parameters so you don't end up going buck wild. Right. So I think that's been helpful and more fun because it gives you a little bit more of a challenge. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I earlier on, I really wanted to try to get, people are talking about rainbows or these other different kinds of collections. And I think I found a Luis Castillo logo fractor out of 5. And I was like, oh, and it was a good price. The Castillo market is not, bumping right now. So I picked that one up. And I was like, you know what, this will be a cool project. Like the, one of one, not a lot of people buy a logo fractor. There's probably a lot of boxes sitting around. Mm-hmm. I might not ever see it, but at least I'll be on the lookout and it'll be fun to watch. And so I started picking the other stuff up. Then the one of one showed up like 2 weeks, literally like 2 weeks later. And I was like, I already bought the rest of the run. Like I'd spent, a few $100s putting these cards together. And I wasn't ready. Like I was like, I'll have money set aside when it shows up so I can buy it. I wasn't ready. I was like, oh no, I can't let somebody else get this. And so it was fun, but like, it's kind of almost the same trap you put yourself into too, like that kind of stuff. I really learned that like, if you pass something like that up, you probably will never see it again. Even with the slash fight, like you were talking about that red X-Fractor, like as time goes on, like those are just going to be in people's collections. Like you're never going to see it. Yep. And if you do, it's going to be in a big lot or like, something like that. So yeah, it's a really difficult balance. And I think I've kind of forced my way into it because I spend most of my hobby time now working on break stuff, opening cards and packing and taking photos. I've been really getting into taking photos, finding other ways to do hobby stuff that isn't like really expensive. So that has kind of taken me away from, and like I said, I pulled out a bunch of those cards and realized like kind of what I've done. And then this like, and some of those cards that you look at and you're like, why did I buy this? Exactly like you said. And it like, it's not just, it doesn't seem futile. It almost feels bad where you're like, oh, that was a bad decision. Yeah. You don't want to have that kind of stuff like sitting around in your house. So yeah, I totally feel it. And so hopefully as time goes on and you get a little bit more independence with your daughter, you'll be able to handle some of that other stuff. But yeah, it's tough, man. And it's really easy, like I said, to fall in that trap, spend too much money. I don't know. was finances, I mean, you have a family, but you also have a budget too. Like, did you really have an issue with finances and not just like shifting that over to your family, but maybe like getting a little out of control? Because I know for me, it's really easy to see it as, you know, a number, and then a like maybe not an investment, but at least something that has value that you can, you know, get a little somewhat get some of that back, right? Like I can sell some of these cards, but it's not that easy. Like you said, you can't just sell it. Like you have to find somebody to buy it too, which is a whole thing. So, but yeah, like what was the financial situation like? If I can ask, like, is that something that you struggled with, or do you have that under control?
Yeah, so I mean, I work two full-time jobs. I've been doing that for about 3.5 years. I'm very blessed to have two companies that I work for with a large amount of flexibility that I'm able to kind of work simultaneously with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I work a lot, man. I mean, I get up at 6 in the morning and I work, you know, on and off, until about 10 p.m., 6 days a week. A lot of that I'm able to do from home, not necessarily remote, but, just over email and phone calls and texts and things like that. I'm in a kind of a supervisory role in both positions. Um, so it never really, obviously, yeah, man, let me preface this by saying I spent way more money than I should. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But I never really found myself in a spot where it's, you know, oh man, we're not going to be able to go grocery shopping, or we're not going to be able to go out to dinner if we want to, or it's somebody's birthday, I got to hurry up and sell a few cards or anything else like that. So I never really put myself in a hole like that, but definitely spending way more than I should. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess every person's, monthly budget is probably a good way of looking at it. It's different, obviously, depending on, what your household situation is like, your employment situations like, et cetera, et cetera. But I would probably spend anywhere from $200 to $500 a month on the hobby, which is not insignificant. And that might sound like a lot, to some people. That might sound like pennies to others. But that's a little bit of money, man. No matter what part of life you're in, $500 is not nothing. So
Yeah.
definitely spending more than I should. Definitely spending more than I needed to. And again, it looked like it was kind of like work at that point in time where
Mm-hmm.
I've got hey, I haven't bought any cars this month. I found this Yachty auto that's kind of mediocre, whatever, but I'm gonna go ahead and drop 150 on it. When in reality, I should be putting that in the S&P 500 or something like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
This money would be better served, somewhere else. But never really found myself, in a position where I was putting my family or my financial well-being at risk. But I definitely started to identify that I could be putting myself in a better position, go buy some real estate or something like that, that's just better long term. So definitely, pissing money away, but not to a point where that was the driving force of me stepping back. Um, so yeah, I've always been pretty comfortable with what I spent, but nowadays, like I said, I'm doing a little bit more investing, doing a little bit more saving, clearing out some debt, things like that with a lot of that money. But that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't really the driving force. I think more than anything, it was the time. And
Mm-hmm.
even with or without the kid, this hobby would consume a vast majority of my time every week. I just said I got two jobs. Uh, the hobby was kind of my third job between the podcasting, social media, keeping up with the dudes in the Discord, and just on eBay. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
I found I've given myself a lot of time back and, a decent chunk of money back too.
Yeah, that's good. And it's really easy to like to fall in those traps too and just end up feeling guilty about it, even though you're still doing it, which is not like you don't want to bring that into a hobby. That's something that's supposed to be like your escape from feeling bad or the rest of the world or anything like that. And so I think it was one of you guys on the podcast or in the Discord when I was, more getting into it, but still getting started and just like buying whatever I could. Somebody said that, if you're feeling really anxious about it or you're nervous or like you just have any negative feelings at all that you don't want to harbor while you're doing this, like think about what it is, and a lot of times it's going to be about money. And uh if you can find a way to either take that out of the equation or make it work for you, that's really, really will help you with a lot of your problems. So like, if you're worried about your spending, then stop buying stuff for a while and like see how you feel. Was that it? Or like, if you're not selling enough or you really feel pressured to like turn around a lot of your stuff, are you just buying to flip? And like, is that maybe not for you? And that's fine. Some people like to do it. They spend a lot of time doing it. But you might be getting into that and you're finding out that it's just not something you want to handle. It's not good for your life. And so finding that balance is just like, it's really important. So taking a step back, I think, is part of what you're doing. Is really important to get some perspective about what's going on in your life. And I'm really glad that you're making it work for you, and you didn't really have a crisis about it. It was just more like you made the decision because you were really heavily into the community, and I can relate to that too. Building this this place where we do breaks and all kinds of other hobby stuff and interact with people. You're right. It takes a lot of time. So having the wherewithal to step back and say like, this is taking over part of my life. And I need to change it at the very least. Like, you don't have to go all out and be like, I'm dumping my collection and I'm spending all my time doing something else. Like, you just think about what's going on in your life and maybe take it a little bit easier, and you can get a better perspective about it. And so, we run a lot of breaks. There's a lot of money flying around, but we also like to make sure, if people really there's some people who just like, they love getting into breaks and they're doing it all the time. And every once in a while, it's kind of want to take a step back with them and be like, hey, are you doing all right? I kind of noticed that, you're getting really, really involved with this. Like, let's just have a little check in, because we don't want anybody to, fall into that and, have something really bad happen to them. And so I don't think we've had anybody like that. There's been some guys who like, lost their jobs or something, and they do have the foresight to be like, okay, this is a time where I really need to stop doing this as a hobby or as a business, and like step back into something that's going to actually help me to take care of my life and my situation. So I'm really glad to hear that. I'm glad that you're taking care of your business.
Yeah, it's you don't need anybody taking out a second mortgage on their house to jump in a 2025 top series one jumbo case break or anything like
Right.
that. And I've seen it. We've all seen it. Just on Reddit, stuff like that. You see, guy pops in, flash in the pan. Nobody's ever heard of him. He's buying up everything, posting everything, and then 6 months later, he's got a dog that needs surgery, so he's trying to sell everything, or he's got, his wife lost her job or something like that, and all of a sudden they're dumping, crazy, crazy cards, and they're on a time crunch for it, and your heart goes out to those kinds of guys, man. And it could happen to anybody. Like I said, lightning could hit tomorrow. I could break my leg tomorrow. Anything could happen. So just trying to be mindful and toe that line. Fortunately, I have the benefit of having grown up very, very poor. So I know what it's like to have nothing. And to me, that's always a possibility that's right around the corner. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's hard for me to drop a lot of money on one card, all at one time or anything like that. I understand the value of $1, and it's really just expendable, disposable income that I always felt comfortable kind of tossing at this and try to leave it at that. But my bills stay paid and I'll be all right.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and I think I kind of went the other way. Like, I grew up poor too, and so for me, for whatever reason, my temperament is like, I want to spend money. I want to spend money to have fun, because I never got to do that. Like we
Amen.
were going to 5 grocery stores to clip coupons and save $10 for gas money. Like that was most of my childhood, and I was blessed enough for my parents, when we went out, they'd get me a pack of cards, and that's what brought me into the hobby, and and into baseball in general. So I mean, that's thanks to my parents for taking care of that with me and making sure I had fun when we were going through that, because it wasn't apparent to me at the time. But now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I do things differently because I want to make sure I don't want to experience that again. But it kind of throws it the other way, right? So like last year, I was looking at Julio stuff because the prices were down, and it's like, oh, look at all this great stuff I don't have that's cheaper than it used to be. Like, it's cheaper than it used to be, but it's still $250-$300. Like, and so it's really easy to talk yourself into it. And then
Oh
before you know it, like, you dropped $1,000 this week on 3 cards. And so like, uh, it's, you really got to have that foresight and slow down, like slow down on this stuff. Most of, if not all of this stuff will be around, or there'll be new stuff that's cool. Like I like to think about, like, I'm buying all this stuff now, but next year there's going to be just as many cards. And then the next year there's going to be just as many cards. Like, you're going to want some of those. Like, don't go nuts now and then not be able to do what you want later. But a lot of folks get caught up in the instant gratification of it. And, you don't see the numbers as much when it just comes straight out of your bank account. And you feel like you kind of have a commodity because you can sell these things. And so, like, it's really easy, at least for me, to talk myself into, like, this isn't a problem. But, like, if I didn't have the money to do it, it would be a problem. So I hope people who are out there who might be worried about this process or what they're going through would think about that, and not in like a negative way. Like, don't feel bad about it. Just kind of like, think about the future. Think about what you're doing now. Is it sustainable? Like, is it making you feel bad? Like I said, like, there's going to be more cards. You have all the time in the world, like, you don't have to amass things all the time.
No,
and
absolutely.
while I was going through the Julio stuff, it was like, there was some stuff from 2022, rookie stuff that is way more expensive and probably will never get. So I talked myself into getting more of that stuff for the 2024 rookies, because I really love the 24 rookie class. And I think a lot of those guys are great players. And I'm not even really investing so much in that, as that I'm picking this stuff up now while I think it might be cheap. And if it doesn't work out, I didn't lose a lot of money. But if it does, I'll have something that, I'm not going to want to buy in 5 years because it's too expensive. And that was kind of what I told myself, but I ended up spending, there's like 7 or 8 guys that are good and I like watching. So I had to get, I was really into the gold foils because at the time they were, those are more rare. And a PSA 10 gold foil on that US 44 Julio is like, a couple $100. So, I love the shininess. I love shiny stuff. I love stuff that looks great, has great images, and like, I want to pick that stuff up, but I don't want to spend a lot. But it kind of backfired because I ended up spending just as much in more players. So it's really complicated for me. Like, I have to stop and step back a lot and kind of pause my eBaying and like do all that stuff and be like, am I really doing what I want to do? And am I putting myself in a tough spot? Because I don't want to have those negative feelings while I'm doing this. Like, this is supposed to be for fun and community and building up. So I hope people can take something from that if they're going through that. And if you're not, maybe just like keep it in mind, because it's really, like I said, it's really easy to fall into that. And it's great to see some of the older collectors like you, or like people who've been around for even just a few years, who've gone through that process of like, I got to buy everything. I got to build my collection. I'm doing all these projects, like, and blast through all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, you're out a whole bunch of money and you got a whole bunch of cards in boxes that aren't even necessarily stuff you look at. So like, it's tough. Do you kind of like miss it? Are you really itching to kind of get back into it, or are you kind of happy with what's going on? Do you have any like future plans with your hobbying you've been thinking about?
I've kind of found a comfortable spot right now where I pick up some retail. I buy, you call it a blaster a week, maybe. I got pets, I got a baby, so we're doing, a Walmart or Target run, usually once a week. Grab, formula, diapers, etc., whatever the case may be. And I'll always check the shelf. I mean, I can't. It's like the one fun thing, we have. What else am I going to do? I got a family at home. I'm not going out to the bars on the weekends, or I'm not going to the casino or anything like that. So, I'll check the shelf and I'll rip a box. I almost haven't even ever stopped doing that. Again, no matter what, it always comes back to Yadi, bro. So, like I said in the beginning, there's really not much going on with him that I don't already have. I see he's got some inserts in 2025 S1. I jumped in a couple of player breaks. I got a Yachty spot for like $3-4 and 4 or 5 different breaks. I didn't get anything from any of them. And then, you kind of see like, oh man, yeah, I remember what this feels like. You spend some money, you don't hit anything. Or, I bought a blaster box for $25 and I got, $6 worth of cards out of it, a bunch of inserts and stuff that nobody wants. And it kind of reminds me, it's like, yeah, this is why I didn't do this, as heavy when I would go in and spend 150 on blasters over the course of 2 weeks or something like that. So I'm kind of in a comfortable spot where I'm super casual right now. As you probably know, we haven't been running any pods. I haven't really been posting on Instagram. I don't even open Instagram. There's a couple guys on there that, their Yachty collections make my stuff look like kindergarten work. So I don't even want to see what they're doing. So I just kind of chilling, man. I'm just kind of in my lane and cruise control, grab a blaster box, this and that. I'll open up eBay for every once in a while. I'm still looking for a 2004 gold Yachty at a decent price. So I'll look and see if something popped up. But I'm just chilling, man. I'm good. My plan for this year probably be to sell a bunch of this stuff. Hopefully Caminero pops the way I thought he would back in 23. And I can unload a bunch of this for, make a nice profit on it. And probably just sell. Consolidate some of that and maybe turn it into one or two, bigger Yachty cards that I typically wouldn't justify spending that type of money on. But yeah, man, it was always Yachty from the beginning. He retired, and I probably should have just retired with him, to be honest with you. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And it's, this hobby and this space of kind of the universe, fellas like yourself, Metsy, Bobby Baseball, all these guys are always going to be, friends. I made a lot of good friends, in this hobby, and I like to keep in touch with you guys and stuff like that. But it just in terms of the actual hustle and bustle of the day-to-day grind of it, I'm just kind of just chilling. Like I said, that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that's great, man. And it's great to hear from you. I personally really value your opinion and what you have to say, even if you might be a little grouchy about it sometimes. Maybe grouchy TJ will come out another time if you come back and talk with us about, what's going on in cars and stuff. That would be great. I'd love to have you back. But I love what you say. You're always spot on. You have a great perspective. You don't get out of control. Like you have your stuff handled, and I really admire the way you do it. And so it's great to have you here and to talk to you about cards in life. And man, yeah, thanks so much for coming.
No, absolutely, my man. Appreciate you having me on. I'll get grouchy for you for a second. Stop buying everything all the damn time. Topps is putting out a bunch of trash. You don't need all of this. Stop rehashing everything. Nah, but in all seriousness, the new set is pretty nice looking. I like the foil look on the cards. They look good. Wait a year before you buy your rookies. Stop chasing everything all the damn time. Pick a lane, stay in it. Bring back the original, image variations and short prints. These golden mirrors are garbage. But no, it's good. It's good to be back, man, and talk cards. Like I said, dust off the microphone a little bit. Appreciate all your kind words, man. It's this hobby always have a special place in my heart. This is kind of where I belong, and I found a really good community here. Nothing but good guys out here. So it's always good to jump back in and whet the appetite a little bit. I might go and jump on eBay after this. This is all your fault, John. This is all.
We'll keep it to 3 figures. Keep it down.
No doubt.
Yeah, man. But that's great. I'd love to have you back on and talk more about what you think about the cards. Like I said, not just your opinion on collecting, but your opinion on what's happening in the hobby is also like spot on. So love to have you again. And thanks everyone for listening. You can find us in the Discord, and TJ, you can find us in the Discord. We got a pretty healthy Cardinals community going on, so lots to talk about there. But anybody, come show off your stuff. We'd love to see it. Chat about what's happening. There's always, like you said, there's always something going on in Topps world. Baseball's firing up, so yeah, it's a great time to find some people you trust and you like talking to have some good times. So thanks again, TJ, and thanks everyone out there for listening, and we will catch you next time. Catch you on the Discord, and see you later.